But what no one knew was the real secret behind that moment. As Sophia sat broken on that cold marble floor, ready to give up on life forever, the single dad janitor Ahmed didn't just offer her a cup of chai. He quietly pulled out a small, crumpled note from his pocket. On it was written in his daughter's handwriting, "Daddy says even when the world is dark, one kind person can bring light." Ahmed looked into Sophia's tear-filled eyes and whispered, "I carry this note every night while cleaning these floors, because some days I also want to give up. But then I remember, my daughter is watching me, and today maybe you needed to hear it too." In those few seconds, a poor janitor who earns less than $300 a week gave a fallen billionaire the one thing money could never buy: hope. And that single act of pure kindness didn't just save her life. It completely changed the destiny of both their worlds forever. That was the secret. In the glittering heart of Manhattan, where dreams are bought and sold every single day, lived one of the most powerful women the business world had ever seen. Her name was Sophia Reynolds. At 38 years old, she stood at the very top of the mountain, a self-made billionaire whose name commanded respect in every boardroom across the country. Sophia had built her empire from nothing. Born to a modest family in a small town in upstate New York, she had lost her parents young. That pain became her fuel. While other girls her age dreamed of fairy tales, Sophia dreamed of control. Control over her destiny, control over her future, and control over a world that had taken so much from her. By 25, she had her first million. By 30, she owned a chain of luxury real estate developments that redefined skylines. Penthouse suites in New York, private villas in Miami, commercial towers in Chicago and Los Angeles. Her company, Reynolds Empire Group, was valued at over $2.8 billion. Private jets waited for her call. Designers sent custom gowns to her door. Invitations to the Met Gala, Davos, and secret billionaire retreats filled her calendar. But success came at a terrible price. Sophia had no real friends, only business associates. No family, only employees who feared her. No love, only calculated relationships that never lasted. She told herself it was the price of greatness. She told herself the loneliness was temporary. She told herself that one day, when she had enough, she would finally feel complete. She was wrong. It was a cold Monday morning in October when her world began to crumble. Sophia walked into her glass-walled corner office on the 62nd floor, expecting another ordinary day of conquest. Instead, she found her longtime business partner and closest confidant, Richard Langford, waiting with a team of lawyers and federal agents. The betrayal was surgical. For 7 years, Richard had been siphoning funds through offshore accounts, forging documents, and manipulating investors. He had built a shadow empire using her name while preparing his escape. In one calculated move, he turned on her completely. Evidence was planted. Lies were spun. The media was fed a story of Sophia's financial mismanagement and possible fraud. By the end of that week, everything was gone. Her companies were seized, bank accounts frozen, assets auctioned off. The private jet was repossessed. The penthouse was put on the market. Even her wardrobe and jewelry were claimed as company property. In just 11 days, Sophia Reynolds went from being one of the richest women in America to having less than $8,000 in a secret emergency account. The fall was brutal and public. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire heiress exposed. Empire crumbles overnight. Sophia Reynolds, from riches to rags." Former friends vanished. Business partners denied knowing her. The same people who once begged for her attention now crossed the street to avoid her. Sophia spent nights staring at the ceiling of a cheap motel room she could barely afford. The silence was deafening. For the first time in her adult life, she had no meetings, no calls, no empire to command. Just herself, and the crushing weight of failure. One rainy Thursday night, She found herself standing on the rooftop of her former penthouse building. The new owners had not yet changed the locks. She looked out over the city that once worshipped her. The lights blurred through her tears. The wind whipped around her designer coat, the last expensive thing she still owned. She whispered into the night, her voice breaking. What was the point of all of it? All the sacrifices, all the lonely nights, all the battles I fought, just to end up here, completely alone. She stepped closer to the edge. The street below looked peaceful from this height. One step, one moment, and it would all be over. He stopped a respectful distance away and spoke gently, his accent soft and comforting. Excuse me, miss. You look very cold. This chai is hot. It might help. Sophia looked up, startled. No one had offered her anything without wanting something in return for years. She stared at the simple man, the steaming cup, and the kind eyes. She took the cup with shaking hands. The warmth spread through her palms. Thank you, she whispered, her voice hoarse. Ahmed didn't leave. He sat on the floor a few feet away. Even though he was on duty, he looked at her with genuine concern. Life can be very cruel sometimes, he said quietly. It takes everything, but it cannot take who you are inside, unless you let it. Sophia laughed bitterly through her tears. You have no idea who I am or what I've lost. Ahmed smiled gently. I don't need to know. I only see a daughter of God who is hurting. And right now that is enough. In that single moment, those few precious seconds, something deep inside Sophia cracked open. A poor single dad janitor, earning minimum wage, cleaning floors that wealthy people walked on without noticing, had just given her something no therapist, no friend, no amount of money had been able to give. He gave her dignity. He gave her kindness. He gave her hope. They sat in silence for a while. Sophia sipped the chai. It tasted like comfort, like home, like something she had forgotten existed. Finally, she asked, "Why are you being kind to a stranger?" Ahmed looked at her with peaceful eyes. Because someone was kind to me when I lost my wife. Because my daughter Aisha teaches me every day that kindness is the only thing we can truly afford to give freely. Because the world is already too cold. Why should I add to it? That night, Sophia went back to her cheap motel with a full heart for the first time in months. She couldn't stop thinking about Ahmed's words. The next day, she returned to the building. And the day after that, she began sitting in the lobby during Ahmed's shift. Slowly, a friendship formed. Ahmed shared his story. How he and Fatima had dreamed of a better life. How they came to America full of hope. How cancer took her in just 6 months. How he worked tirelessly so Aisha could have opportunities he never had. How every night he read her stories and prayed for her future. He never once asked Sophia about her past. He never asked for money. He simply listened when she was ready to speak. One cold evening, after weeks of quiet conversations, Sophia finally broke. She told him everything. The empire. The betrayal. The billions lost. The suicidal thoughts on the rooftop. The crushing emptiness. When she finished, she was sobbing uncontrollably. Ahmed listened without interrupting. When she was done, he reached out and gently placed his hand on hers. A fatherly, protective touch. Bitiji, he said softly, using the Urdu word for daughter. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy peace. It can buy respect, but it cannot buy love. You lost your empire, but you have not lost your soul. You are still here. You are still breathing. That means God still has a plan for you. He paused, then continued with quiet strength. Life is not about how high we climb. It is about how many times we stand up after falling. I lost my wife, my whole world. But I have Aisha. I have my faith. I have the strength to keep going. You have survived the worst. Now it is time to rise again, not for money, but for meaning. Those words changed everything. Over the following months, Sophia began to heal. She started small. She volunteered at a women's shelter, teaching basic business skills. She used her remaining contacts to help Ahmed's daughter get a scholarship at a good school. She began writing her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Ahmed never asked for anything. Yet Sophia made sure Aisha had books, clothes, and opportunities. She helped Ahmed reduce his workload by secretly paying for some of his rent through a community fund. Slowly, Sophia started rebuilding. Not the old empire of greed and loneliness, but something new. A smaller company focused on helping single parents launch micro-businesses. A foundation that provided interest-free loans to immigrant families. 6 months after that first cup of chai, Sophia launched her new venture. On opening day, the only person she truly wanted there was Ahmed. When he arrived in his simple clothes, looking nervous, Sophia took his hand on stage in front of everyone. "This man," she said, her voice strong and clear, tears shining in her eyes. "This single dad janitor who earns in a month what I used to spend in a day saved my life. Not with money, not with power, but with kindness and truth. In just a few seconds, he reminded me what it means to be human. He gave me back my soul." The audience was moved to tears. Today, Sophia Reynolds is no longer the richest woman in the world, but she is one of the happiest. She still visits Ahmed and little Aisha regularly. They drink chai together. They laugh. They share stories. They remind each other that true wealth was never measured in bank accounts. It was always measured in the hearts of people who choose kindness when the world chooses cruelty. And every night, before she sleeps, Sophia whispers a quiet thank you to the single dad janitor who changed her life in seconds.